Hello, everybody. Chapter 4, The Interrogations. Welcome back to some Poirot, the first cases.
The guests are waiting for you, Detective. I informed them of what has happened, but divulged no details.
There goes my opportunity to catch one of them off guard, no matter I have more than one weapon
I
in
am
my
most
armory.
grateful. Madame Vandenbosch is here also?
She's in her room with Miss Angeline. It may be better to speak with them privately tomorrow.
Oui, merci. I shall come find you again once my questioning is complete.
The guest alibis are my priority. Once I can confirm their whereabouts this evening, I can understand who had an opportunity. So Chapter 3 was really short. I have my lead suspects from the evidence at the scene of the crime. Perhaps those will change after speaking with them all. So depending on what day it came out, will determine how long this is. Because if the last video came out on Tuesday, then this one will be out, and this one is on Thursday. Then that means that it must not be a very long video or another long chapter. So there is that. All right, let's start with
I am afraid our conversation is of
Zachariah.
a more formal nature this time.
So the Major was murdered?
It appears so.
You can't think that I did it, though.
I will be questioning everyone over the course of the evening, and your cooperation will certainly speed up that process.
Besides speaking with me, tell me about your movements before dinner.
I was here in the salon, minding my own business, enjoying my own company.
Minding your business from whom?
Comtesse, what's her name, and my brother. Apart from wanting to congratulate him for a great right hook, there was nothing I had to say to him.
Comtesse de Vos. And they will both confirm you were here?
If she had taken a moment to notice anything besides herself, she will tell you I was here the whole time.
I think that is all for now. Merci for your time.
Okay. So he says that he was in the salon.
Bonsoir, Monsieur Beckers. Merci for speaking with me.
Monsieur Poirot, or should it be Detective Poirot now?
Detective Poirot is perfect. Merci. I would like to begin with a few questions.
Go right ahead, Detective Poirot.
Can you tell me where you were prior to dinner?
I took great pleasure in seeing the Major's ego as well as his face take a bruising. And then I made my way to the library.
Where you spoke with Mademoiselle Conrad.
And yourself? Yes.
We were the only two that you spoke with.
One of the servants bought me a drink, and I was telling her about the benefits of joining a union. She didn't understand what it truly meant to be a part of something. Something bigger than just her. I was trying to explain to her how.
Monsieur.
Oh, yes, it was just the two of you, and the servant.
Strange that he does not seem to recall seeing Monsieur de Silva in the library.
And you are sure there was no one else present?
I'm not sure what you're getting at, Detective. You were there.
Merci, Monsieur Beckers. It has been a most enlightening conversation.
Okay. Well, I mean, to be fair, just because he didn't see him there doesn't mean he wasn't there. I mean, we saw him there. We spoke to him.
Monsieur de Silva, merci for obliging me.
Did I just get another achievement?
A detective comes to a party and a dead body shows up. Coincidental, don't you think?
A man's death is not a matter to joke on, monsieur.
Who said anything about a joke? I am saying what I see.
Then perhaps you can tell me what it was you saw this evening.
Where were you prior to dinner?
Following whatever that was in the hall, I moved to the library.
Is there anyone that can confirm that?
Miss Conrad and Beckers were in there, arguing about something. The books held my interest far more than their conversation.
You did not speak with them until dinner was served?
I had no reason to get involved with their little spat. It was clear they didn't want me to hear, and that suited me just fine.
Merci for your cooperation.
Okay. So now we have his very loose alibi.
Monsieur Demir, I am sorry your celebrations have taken a rather dark turn.
As am I, Detective. I hope we will be able to bring this investigation to an end post-haste.
With your cooperation, I will do my very best.
Besides your time in the hall, where were you before we were summoned to the dining
I was
room?
here in the salon. I thought I would have a moment of peace to calm myself, but the Comtesse and my brother followed behind.
Did they inquire into the reasons behind the fight in the hall?
I think they both saw it as some light entertainment, more than anything else.
The Countess does not strike me as one to enjoy violence.
And not so much violence, but karma for the Major, perhaps. You did not hear how he spoke to my wife-to-be. She is still rather upset about the whole thing.
If you would be so kind as to stay here, I may require your help further.
Okay. Well, these two, Gideon saw Margot and Zachariah saw Gideon and
Some
Margot.
would say a lucky guess.
They confirm each other's appearance in the salon. And now we shall speak to Margot to see if she confirms it even further.
Countess, I am sorry our next conversation must be under such formal circumstances.
It is not the first time Felix has ruined a good party.
The current state of tonight's celebrations is the least of my priorities, Countess.
Well, it's at the top of mine, detective. I did not come here for a wake.
Perhaps then we should proceed with my questions and you can get back to celebrating.
It would be my pleasure, chérie.
You spoke earlier. Did you remain here in the salon until dinner was served?
I did. I thought by staying in one place, it would be easy for the staff to bring me my drinks. How wrong I was.
And who else was present in here?
The handsome groom-to-be and his brother, although Zachariah, is it, made a rather sharp exit at one stage.
Did he say where he was going?
He barely said 2 words to either of us. I think he was more concerned with his drink.
Another to notice Monsieur Demir's drinking, and yet no one seems concerned.
Merci, Countess. If I have any further questions, I shall be sure to come and find you.
Ooh, I got 2 connections out of that one. So Zachariah went missing, Margot was in the salon, and Gideon was present. So I mean,
the
these two
pieces
would
of the
connect.
puzzle are finally coming.
Margot and Gideon confirm each other's appearance in the salon. But Zachariah went missing.
I must take a different approach if I am to...
I mean, it's got to be this one, right?
Order and method.
No?
That... I must take a different approach.
Oh, and apparently...
I should not be surprised.
Margot claims Zachariah stepped out of the room, but Gideon did not mention it. Was the missing time accounted for? Okay, well, I won't worry about speaking to him again until we've covered the rest of them.
Mademoiselle Conrad, I am sure you understand the delicate nature of the situation.
I knew I had seen your face before. You were just an officer when that story hit the paper.
You have a très bon memory, mademoiselle. That was a long time ago.
You can't escape the past, especially when you go and do something like that.
That is very true, but one can learn from it and create a better future.
What would you say to an
Please, mademoiselle. Catching the Major's killer is my sole concern right now. Now, if you would be so kind, I have some questions for you.
Tell me about your evening since your arrival.
I arrived, unpacked my bags in my room, and made it downstairs just in time to see the Major take a right hook from Gideon. And then I went to check out the library.
And you were joined by Monsieur Beckers.
And Ernesto, or Monsieur Silver, as you say. But after he ignored my attempt at pleasantries, I left him to his book in the corner.
And your conversation with Monsieur Beckers that I interrupted.
You are a persistent one, aren't you? Makes sense now I know who you really are. You'll just have to wait and read about it in the paper like everyone else.
Mademoiselle Conrad still remains tight-lipped about her discussion with Monsieur Beckers, but a hint at reading about it in the newspaper makes me believe may be of much grander nature than I expected.
You have been most helpful. I request you do not go too far. Merci.
Well, that should also provide a couple of points because she's now confirmed Jackie was talking to Hugo.
What a revelation.
And he said that he spoke to her and me, which makes sense. And then Ernesto was lurking in the library, and he overheard the argument. They confirm each other's appearance. And then lastly, I don't know. I really don't. Because none of the other things. Like, it says we have one more, but the only new stuff we have since last time is her 2 points, which I've already connected. But they don't seem to... I mean, this doesn't make sense, but...
Magnifique.
Alright, well. Hugo failed to mention seeing Ernesto in the library. Okay, so we need to talk to Hugo and Zachariah again. Zach or whatever. Do I need to speak to Archibald about it?
Is that the end of your intent?
There are still some...
Okay. I wasn't sure. He was on the list of suspects, so I was like, maybe.
I'm an open book, Poirot.
Your version of events.
I told you already. I was here in the salon.
And you did not leave even once.
Well, I had to use the bathroom. I didn't realize I had to update you every time nature called.
You may keep your calls of nature to yourself, merci. And then you returned to the salon?
If you don't believe me, ask Archibald. He saw me on his way up to the study.
I think that is all for now.
Why was he on his way up to the study? Okay. But with that, we'll speak to Hugo.
Whatever you require.
Your story of tonight's events.
I know you are probably used to dealing with criminals, but not everyone is trying to hide something.
I hope for your sake that you do not hide anything from me.
What is it you think I'm hiding?
I struggle to believe you did not know of Monsieur da Silva's presence in the library.
Is that what this is about? I saw him hiding in the corner, pretending to read. I'd be surprised if he even could. I did not speak to him, and he certainly didn't make any attempt to speak with me.
Monsieur Demire invited you here to speak with him. You didn't see that as a fitting time too?
I was speaking with Jacqueline, and quite frankly, I was in no mood to be dealing with that man.
Monsieur Becker is courageous and full of vigor in his planning, but his execution does not share such
Merci,
confidence.
Monsieur Beckers. It has been a most enlightening conversation.
Okay, so Hugo saw Ernesto.
This will not get me any closer to...
Really?
I cannot see the logic in this.
Why not?
Some would say a lucky guess.
Why does that one make more sense? Now confirm each other's appearance.
Beginning to become...
Hugo, Ernesto, and Jackie support each other's version of events. Someone else must be responsible, surely. Alright.
Can you confirm seeing Monsieur Demire in the hall this evening?
Zachariah, yes. I was on my way with a bottle of whiskey to the Major. He shouted a rather ignorable greeting to me and asked for directions to the bathroom.
I presume you showed him the way?
Aye, detective. I showed him to the hall bathroom. I didn't think it was wise to attempt the stairs, not in that state.
All right. Well, I mean, that confirms his alibi.
Come, my little Grey Sands.
Oh, come on.
Some would say a lucky guess.
Archibald confirms Zachariah's movements out of the salon.
What a revelation.
Gideon, Zachariah, and Margot were all in the salon, at least for some time altogether. Surely someone else is to blame. Even with some minute differences in story, the guests all confirm each other's alibis. It is not the outcome I was expecting or perhaps hoping for. Well, I mean, maybe ask Archibald what he saw when he took the Major up his whiskey. Does not yield the result I desired. Perhaps a more direct approach, considering their potential motives, will reveal more. So what, now we're just gonna fucking go after them and be like, you did it.
I'm an open book, Poirot.
Did you speak with the Major this evening?
Why would I? I've got nothing to say to him, except maybe to keep his hands off what is ours.
What is yours that he could want?
Money, of course. Why do you think he has been suckling at the Van den Bosch teeth for so long? He's bled them dry, and now they will all do the same to our money.
Our?
My father's, Gideon's, it's all the same.
Get the sense that you and Monsieur Gideon are not the closest.
When you have not been on level playing fields for years, it's hard to have a fair game.
I am afraid I do not quite understand.
If we're playing golf, he has a full set of clubs and a caddy in the form of my father, and I have the old split putter. Make sense now?
Perfectly.
There is certainly some hostility towards his brother. This runs much deeper than
I
brotherly
think that
rivalry.
is all for now. Merci for your time.
Okay. Well, I guess we may as well just make the loop again.
Whatever you require, detective.
How do you know the victim?
I know that I don't think, or didn't think, a great deal of him. I'm just sorry I didn't get the chance to tell him what I thought.
The man has recently been murdered.
Someone must stand up to men like him, with their crooked dealings and lack of, well, any compassion at all.
Another rousing speech, monsieur.
It's the truth. If you knew what I know, maybe he wouldn't be dead, but behind bars instead.
Connection to the families through Monsieur Demire.
Yes, Gideon invited me. If you will recall from our previous conversation, we have been working together and he thought now would be a good time to discuss matters.
To discuss business at the celebration of his engagement?
We're all here, so what better time? He thought Da Silva might even let his guard down, if he was in a more jubilant mood. It would be wise to not continue to ignore us any longer.
And what business was it that was so urgent?
We're trying to resolve the worker strikes. It has gone on long enough. Now is the time for him to listen to our demands so we can put an end to it all. Put the violence and upset behind us.
You seem to hold a certain level of, shall we say, anger towards the Major.
Anger, yes, but that's all. I wouldn't kill a man.
You must see why this leads me to have suspicions.
You can't honestly think I did it. I am a man of peace. I make changes with words, not with violence.
Barely mentioned the Major, Monsieur Beckers became rather flustered and defensive. So are there plans for a negotiation with Monsieur de Silva?
I am fighting for the basic rights of our workers, nothing more. If he can't see that, he is a lesser man than I already thought.
And where does Monsieur Gédéon fit into the negotiations? And his brother?
His brother? I didn't even know he had a brother until I arrived here.
Excuse me.
Gideon certainly hasn't talked much about him. I get the sense there's not much love lost between them.
And when was the last time you saw the Major?
Last I saw, he was outside having a cigar.
Oui, I spoke with him myself, but that was some time ago.
He does love a cigar. You'd have to stand out in those conditions. I could barely see him through the snow.
Merci, Monsieur Beckers. It has been a most enlightening conversation.
Okay. Well, he provided us a lot of information. I mean, fuck it. He's right here.
I'm an open book.
Your relationship with your brother seems everyone has an opinion.
That doesn't surprise me, and yet no one actually asks.
I am asking now.
I should have expected that, shouldn't I? What is there to say? We used to be close, but not so much anymore.
I would find it very helpful if you could at least elaborate on your relationship.
He went to school, got an education, and was the apple of our father's eye. I went to war. See the difference now.
Monsieur has again mentioned his time in the war. While I do not mean to belittle his efforts for his country, it seems as though he has not been able to leave the life behind
I think
on the
that is all
battlefield.
for now.
Why did it say that I had a new thing on this? Anyway, on to Ernesto.
More questions.
Can you tell me more about your relationship with the deceased?
Felix, I didn't know him that well. We spoke a handful of times. I met him through Cassandra. I thought him to be rather pompous.
But you remained polite, as any gentleman would.
Of course.
The negative opinion of the Major is rather ambiguous. Oh, God. I am yet to meet somebody with a particularly positive view on him. Why don't you tell me more about your relationship with Madame Vandenbosch?
What is there to say? She's a remarkable woman, and I admire her. Even after Edwin's death, she held herself with such poise.
It sounds as though you hold her in the highest regard.
And why shouldn't I? Women these days could take a leaf out of her book on how to present themselves.
You said you had talked with the Major a few times. About what exactly?
He had approached me about doing some business together. I like to know who I'm getting into bed with first.
And you both went ahead with your business venture.
Not so much a business venture, more security related. But there is no need to discuss that any further.
Is there something you wish to remain hidden about your partnership, monsieur?
It was far from a partnership. I hired him to run security at my factories. If the workers were going to get violent, I wanted to make sure I was ready to protect my property.
Both you and the Major have been very supportive of Madame Vandenbosch over the years.
That is correct.
And the reason for your support was always of a purely platonic nature.
If you're trying to insinuate that I was expecting something in return, you can remove your head from the gutter.
I meant no offense. I'm only trying to understand the dynamic of your relationship.
I'm meaning to approach this in a different manner. Perhaps I should speak with the Comtesse on this.
Merci for your co-op.
Okay. Wow, he provided quite a bit as well. Margot and Jackie both got conversations for that. Well, Gideon's
no trouble
next,
at
though.
all. How can I?
With the drain of your two families and the Major being around so much, I assume you knew him well.
I knew of him more than actually knowing him myself. In the past, he made his feelings towards my brother and I quite clear.
And that was not in a positive way.
I certainly wouldn't call trying to get Angeline to postpone the engagement positive.
I spoke with your brother earlier. He was certainly enjoying himself.
What do you mean?
I do not mean to pry, only I imagine the whole room was aware of his celebrating with a bottle.
You must be mistaken. Neither my brother nor I drink.
Do not know I could have not have noticed the state his brother was in. Perhaps one does not see what one does not want to believe. How is your relationship with your brother?
We aren't the closest, but what brothers are?
I would argue that many are.
We've lived very different lives. Our priorities are different. He does not see things the way I do. There isn't much more to say.
There's clearly more to uncover here. I shall return to the matter when I have the fuel that is required to get the answers. I'd like to ask you about your work with the Union.
I have lent my voice to some discussions. I have tried to facilitate meetings. Just positive support.
Does that positive support include sending letters to those on the opposing side?
Detective Poirot, I'm not sure what you think I have done.
Monsieur, a letter has been found threatening the Major of what might happen if he does not act promptly, and now he has wound up dead.
You think my sending him a letter, warning him not to get involved, means I murdered him?
At this time, it is certainly reason for me to be suspicious.
I have been funding the strikes, Detective. These men deserve fair treatment, and a wage that fits the hard work they undertake every single day. The Major didn't see that. All he cared about was the money for his services, and that is all I care to discuss.
Appears Monsieur's letter was at least written with noble intentions, but he is still hesitant to talk more on the Major's
If you would be
association.
so kind as to stay.
Still no links to be made. Good lord. Huge amounts of information, though. Another thing for Zachariah. But let's go to Margot.
I am all yours, detective.
Did you ever speak to the Major about how he treated Madame Vandenbosch?
Why would I actively choose to speak to that wretched man?
You were quite adamant of your protection of Madame. If he was as awful as you portrayed him to be, there must have been some words spoken, or perhaps written?
He was quite aware of how I felt towards him, and the lengths he has gone to remain close to the family. That is all that needs to be said.
I must admit, I would not want to be on the receiving end of your tongue's wrath, Countess.
Wise thinking, detective.
I'm sure you have noticed Madame Vandenbosch's absence.
I imagine she will have shed a tear for him, but she should not waste any more.
You don't think she would? Or you don't want her to?
I have made it quite clear what I think of that man, alive or dead. I would not want her to waste anything further on him.
I don't know who has the sharper tongue, Madame Vandenbosch or the Comtesse. It is certainly a close race for first place. What of Madame Vandenbosch and Monsieur de Silva's relationship?
What of it?
Do you believe there was something more to their friendship?
As I have said, detective, I am not one to gossip.
I would not even consider your name and that word in the same sentence.
Because it is not gossip when it's the truth.
I'm not sure that is exactly correct, but the Comtesse has made a bold attempt to justify her wagging tongue.
Why else do you think he would stay around for so long? Yes, he was a friend and partner to the Viscount, but it is plain to see it is Cassandra's partnership he longs for.
You explained that the Major was trying to remain close to the family, but not why.
He was a disgusting leech that was driven only by money and power, like most men.
I can assure you not all men are concerned with such egotistical wealth.
That may be, but they are few and far between. I believe you are a special case, Detective Poirot.
It is not the first time I have been described in such a way.
Embrace the compliment, Detective. You have set yourself apart from the horrid crétins that seem to somehow make their way into positions of authority and power.
And that is what the Major was doing? Using Madame Vandenbosch as his ladder to the top?
You are finally seeing the man he was. A weak and self-indulgent social climber.
Comtesse has certainly opened my eyes to the Major's true ambitions with the Vandenbosch family. I wonder if Madame herself is aware of his greed and hunger for social recognition.
Merci, Comtesse. If I have any...
Alright, that's a lot more information as well, probably. Yeah. Alright, Uno Mas, and then we're gonna have to probably do a fucking full loop again.
What do you need?
What did you know of the victim?
I know that he was not the good and honest man he liked to think he was.
In what sense?
If you spoke to him for longer than 5 minutes, you'd know. I've met people in dark alleys I trust before him.
And on the occasions when you did speak with him, what was discussed?
I'm sorry, Poirot. If you're looking for a deep-seated secret between me and him, you're going to be disappointed.
Mademoiselle Conrad is wise to the nature of this question. She knows exactly what and what not to say. This nut may be harder to crack than first expected. As you were previously speaking with him, I assume you know Monsieur Beckers as well,
That
then.
man has got some real anger issues. I get why he's frustrated. He's trying his best for the workers, but holding on to rage like that, something's gonna burst.
A man suppressing his anger in a murdered body. The most amateur detective could see a connection. You seem to know a great deal about everyone. What can you tell me about Monsieur de Silva and Madame Vandenbosch?
If you think you can use me as some sort of gossip machine, you are sorely mistaken.
I can assure you it is not a case of gossiping. At this point, everything may be relevant to my investigation.
So I would be helping you potentially solve a crime? You should have said that off the bat. To say he's smitten is an understatement. I reckon he's been wanting her for years.
Should have said that right off the bat. I mean, you're not a fucking stupid person. I mean, I'm investigating a murder. Why would I ask the question like, if I had asked that question before the Major was murdered, I could see it being gossip.
I see. Madame does not feel the same?
Doesn't look like it. If she did, she would have said something about it, right?
What are your thoughts on the Comtesse? I'd appreciate your opinion on her.
I don't know if you really would. She's got a mouth the size of Texas, except when it comes to truths about her. She wants everyone to think that she's the savior of these girls at the shelter. But there's a side to her I don't think anyone gets to see.
And what side is that?
One that she is keeping tucked away under her very expensive dress.
Weird conversation to be having with her sitting, like, right there. Can only see how the work at a women's shelter is as positive. Even if the reason to start came from a selfish place, the work they do cannot be
You have
scoffed at.
been most helpful. I request you do not go...
Oh wow, she unlocked 2 things for me. Alright. Ernesto and Cassandra's friendship was more than a friend to Ernesto.
Another success.
Perhaps Ernesto has hidden his secret love well. We can use this to our advantage. Let's see, and Jackie doesn't trust the Major. Jackie claims Margot is hiding something. And Hugo's frustration.
Magnifique.
Hugo claims to have calmed down since his argument with the Major, but Jackie disputed this. Well, fuck it. Let's head back over to Zachariah. So why not?
I'm an open book.
What do you know of your brother's work with the
If
Union?
you want to know about Gideon's part in the Union, why don't you ask him?
So, you are aware of his support for them?
Yes, well, he...
Oui, monsieur?
It'd be best to just ask him.
Monsieur either does not know much of what his brother does, or he's protecting him rather coyly.
I think that is all for now.
So Zachariah is defensive of Gideon, even though he resents him.
The pieces of the puzzle.
He claims not to be close to his brother, but still seeks to withhold information about him. I mean, he's still his brother. I mean, just because he's not close doesn't mean he hates him.
More questions?
Apologies for the insistent questions on the subject, but you and Madame Vandenbosch.
Mademoiselle Conrad was quick to talk of your hidden feelings towards her. Perhaps only hidden to Madame Vandenbosch herself.
What has this got to do with the Major's death? Does Cassandra know you have spoken to others about this? I have only tried to help her.
I am merely asking the question. There is no reason to panic. It would greatly help me if you'd answer honestly. I am not accusing you of anything, but if you continue to avoid the question, I may think there is in fact something you are hiding.
There may be some feelings there, but Madame Vandenbosch does not know of them, and I trust that it will remain that way.
Merci for your...
Okay, well, he's confirmed it. But that wasn't a whole lot.
No
Okay.
trouble at all.
I'd like to talk more about your
I
brother.
believe there are more important matters at hand than talking about my brother and I's relationship, or lack thereof.
The murderer is in his house, and by holding back information that may help my investigation, you only make me suspicious of your involvement. Monsieur Demire, If you continue to withhold information, I can only assume you are hiding something, and must treat you as a prime suspect in the Major's murder.
I have nothing to hide. If you must know, we have not been on the best terms for years now. As I said, we are different people. He does not see the importance of planning for the future, and as much as my parents tried, they could not make him see that. I suppose that is why he sees me as their favorite.
He still believes that now?
I assume so. We barely talk anymore. I was hoping we would be able to sit down and talk and leave the past behind. But this evening has not panned out that way.
If you would be so kind as to...
Okay, so Gideon feels detached from Zachariah.
Is there something I have... Things are beginning to become...
The brothers are suspicious individually, but I cannot see them working together.
I am all yours.
Alright, Margot.
detective.
Push on the Major's aggression towards Cassandra. Oh, I gotta
Countess,
break
you
our way
gave
through
me
the
the
armor.
impression the Major and the Madame were close. But there were times where he acted rather aggressively to her, n'est-ce pas?
I am sorry, detective, but I did not mean to give you such an impression.
I've already built a rapport with the Comtesse. Some may even say in a flirtatious manner. Perhaps if I continue to charm her, she will reveal the information I require. It is obviously I who am mistaken. A fine woman of your stature would not purposely lead a young man astray. If I had been mistaken, would you be so kind as to correct me? Yeah.
Ever the charmer, detective. I would talk more on it, but I'm afraid Cassandra would think I am talking about her behind her back.
The Comtesse has something more to say, but she still holds back. Something tells me it is more to do with receiving attention. Perhaps I can use that to my advantage. So, cautionary. How would Madame Van den Bosch feel if she heard the contents of our conversation from me? That seems like a bad choice. You obviously care a great deal about Madame Van den Bosch. Assisting me will help clear her of any wrongdoing. That is what you want for her, isn't it?
It is not often I am swayed so easily. I applaud you on your willingness and persistence. From day one, I
that
was
was
wary
easy.
of his intentions. And it was not long before he showed his true colors. If it is a tear she sheds, it should be one of joy that he is out of her life.
I understand your feelings towards the Major, but perhaps there was...
He was a bully. He took his shortcomings out on her, and she sat there and accepted it. I never thought I would see the day. Perhaps now she will be able to see the man he truly was. Karma will always catch up to you.
All right.
Merci, Comtesse.
I have my opinion of the Major, one that is wiser kept to myself, but I did not expect so many like-minded thinkers. I should think further on what I've heard in my quarters. All right. So, I mean, this one's done. So I guess now we speak to Archibald and just be like, I must think.
My time with the guests is complete, for tonight, at least.
Do you know who killed Major Hagen?
I am afraid it is not as simple as that. There are many steps that lead to the truth. I must think on everything I have heard this evening and dissect the truths from the lies. Merci for your assistance this evening. Au revoir.
Came here expecting to solve a case of blackmail, to relieve a family of a burden that was weighed upon them and overshadowed a joyous celebration. Never been to an engagement celebration where death has taken center stage before. Although the guests' alibis confirm each other's, I still cannot rule out the possibility of one of them being involved in the Major's death. The relationships between some of the guests and the Major were more than rocky. Dislike towards him was plentiful, but enough to drive someone to murder. This is now the perfect opportunity to think about everything I have heard today. Okay. With all the information I need, I must now compile it together. Jackie claims Margot is hiding something. Merely advice. Jackie wants information from Hugo. And Hugo has dirt on the Major.
I should not be surprised by my...
When I first overheard the conversation, Hugo was trying to get Jackie to listen. Hugo lied about his temper. Gideon hesitant to mention past with the Major. Gideon wrote the letter. Gideon is trying to start negotiations. Zachariah expressed disdain for Margot. Zachariah resents Gideon. Threat to the Major. Ernesto cares for Cassandra. Major involved in workers' strike. Ernesto fronting money for the house. Alright. Margot and Cassandra are longtime friends. And Ernesto cares for her?
I must
No.
act on thought and fact.
Okay, well, what about this?
The pieces of the puzzle are finally...
The letter she sent protecting Cassandra was threatening indeed, and Jackie seems unable to determine her secret. Invited by Gideon. Gideon is trying to start negotiating. I mean, technically these two
I must act on thought...
connect, but... I don't know. Can I connect him to himself?
I must take a different approach if I am...
I mean, it doesn't make sense, but...
Is there something I...
Really?
Another success.
His history with the Major combined with threats to his well-being definitely show intent. Zachariah's conflicting attitude, and he resents Gideon.
Come, my little Grayson.
And he's repressing something. Haha!
I cannot see the logic. Order and method.
Yeah. Ernesto cares for Cassandra, and the threat to the Major makes sense.
What a revelation!
Blinded by both love and greed, he may have struck down his opponent. And these ones, and his conflicting attitude.
This will not get me any closer to my...
I mean, I saw them all blinking. Fuck if I know. I mean, I definitely saw this.
Things are beginning to become...
All the guests have at least one other guest confirm their alibis. All alibis have been confirmed.
Entrez.
Detective, I'm sorry I did not join you in the salon as requested.
Please, mademoiselle. There is no need to apologize.
I was with Maman in her room. She would not allow anyone to see it, but I could see she was terribly upset.
Most understandable.
Do you have any suspicions as to who could have killed him?
I'm afraid my suspicions extended across all of the party's guests. While it seems as though their alibis all corroborate one another's, the disdain and hostility towards the Major makes them rife with motive.
I know there was some bad blood between the Major and some of the guests, but not enough to kill him, surely. She may seem tough on the exterior, but she's really quite kind when you get to know her.
Why does she say she?
The Countess? She is a formidable force I would not want to come up against.
Don't be silly, detective. She wouldn't hurt a soul. Jacqueline, I mean.
Mademoiselle Conrad, she was in fact the least suspicious until now.
I assume that's who you were talking about, detective, after what happened between them.
That is a story I have yet to hear.
She must have told you about the piece she was writing on us, about Gideon's work and our marriage.
Somehow that was the only thing she did not mention.
That's strange. I thought that is what she would have started the conversation with.
Well, she had come to the house to interview me, and when I entered the library, she was there with Felix amid a rather heated conversation.
Do you know what this conversation regarded?
I'm afraid not, but Felix was quite enraged. He picked up an envelope from the table and stormed out, slamming the door behind him.
And Mademoiselle Conrad?
She was equally heated in the moment. She had a few choice words for him that I wouldn't care to repeat.
How is Madame feeling now?
Better, thank you, Detective. She's resting in her room. It is the best place for her.
And you, mademoiselle?
I'm not quite sure. It is a rather surreal feeling. I did not think I would miss him like I do.
It is understandable. He has been a close friend to your maman for many years.
And to me, Detective. We had grown close. After father's passing, he was always there for me. And now, he's gone as well.
You must try and not think on it like that.
It is easier said than done, Detective.
I have no doubt, but you can be assured the culprit will not remain at large for long. You have my word.
If you're in my position, mademoiselle, who would be at the top of your suspect list?
I'm sorry, but I just can't imagine any of them committing such a heinous crime.
It can often be hard to look past one's personal feelings for someone and see their flaws.
It's not that, Detective. It's just they have known each other for years. Why would any of them act now?
I was under the impression the Major had merely a business relationship with some of the guests.
That's true. But those invited know each other, some of them for years. They may not seem like it, but some are even friends. I should return to my room now, Detective. It has been a trying day for us all.
Oui, mademoiselle. I am afraid tomorrow may bear a resemblance, but I will not stop until I have found his killer.
I am certainly glad you are here, Detective.
When and where a detective is required, that is where I shall be. Bonne nuit, mademoiselle.
Mademoiselle's left me with an interesting thought, one I had not considered until now. At first glance, the guests do not appear to show much fondness for each other. Mademoiselle is quite sure that is not the case. Perhaps I must consider looking at the guests together and not individually. Major guests have known each other for years, and all alibis
Order
were
and
confirmed.
method.
Really?
That is the way.
Oh, fuck off.
Is there something?
I mean,
I cannot see the
you would
logic.
think that this would connect to...
Magnifique.
Oh, here we go. I doubted Jackie's involvement with the murder, but now I am dubious of her innocence.
I should not be surprised by my own skills of deduction.
150 deductions. I now have all the motives from the guests. Who is under suspicion? Jackie seems suspicious. All motives confirmed. And all alibis
Some
confirmed.
would say a lucky guess.
Do not know who I can trust or whose stories I can believe. Are the guests innocent? All guests are suspicious and they've known
I
each
should
other
not
for
be
years.
surprised.
I now doubt how trustworthy their stories may be. They may well be covering for each other. There's no physical way one of the guests could have killed the Major and returned to the party, unless that is where I'm mistaken. It is not one guilty party I should be looking for, rather multiple. I say Jackie and Ernesto. How much of a basis do I have for that? Almost none. How could I have not considered that the Major's death was part of a ploy created and executed by more than only one of the guests? It came almost as an epiphany following Mademoiselle Angeline's remark about the guest's shared past. Perhaps Mademoiselle will become the trusted ally that I now sense may be essential to catching the guilty parties. Tonight's questioning was only the beginning. I'll allow my suspects to sleep on their stories, and we will see how they fare tomorrow. Perhaps one of those involved will have morals enough to show a glimmer of regret. Considering they may be working together, I cannot be sure who has told the truth and who has attempted to sell me down the fleuve. Perhaps I should sleep on the matter. A good night's sleep will surely bring a new dawn of thinking, and what a better setting to do so than the peaceful falling blanket of snow that surrounds us all. Although it seems not everyone has the same idea. That must be completed chapter 4. Definitely longer.